Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Mandy, and today we're going to be talking about a conversation that I had with my husband when I decided I wanted to homeschool. And no, we were not on the same page. So stay tuned. I'm going to tell you guys the strategy that I used to really present this idea to my husband and how we came to be on the same page and how he became my biggest supporter. So if it's your very first time here, welcome. Make sure that you hit the like and the subscribe button because it really does help me and my channel out. So when I first decided to homeschool, it was right about 6 years ago from right now, which was in the middle of a school year, and my oldest was in 3rd grade. And we had decided that we were kind of a lot like most people. We didn't really think about another option besides public school. And it's so funny because I don't know anyone who homeschools. However, I had a friend who homeschooled, and she was an online friend of mine, super, super sweet. And she knew that I was going through some trouble with my oldest, who was having some trouble at school with some bullying problems. And you know, I really kind of lamented to her what was going on, and she told me, you know, Mandy, you can homeschool. And I, you know, the first time that hit my ears, I think I was like, no, there's no way I could homeschool. And then I think it really started to set root in my brain because I did teach. I'm going to be very upfront with that. I have a degree. I have a bachelor's degree in elementary education. I taught. I was a preschool teacher for 7 years. I even did management, and I taught a VPK course in Florida. So teaching to me was not anything that was foreign. So I didn't understand why I did not think that I could homeschool. So someone like me who's actually been in the education world, you have to understand, even I at first not only didn't think of homeschool, but I did not even think that I would be capable of homeschooling. And a lot of that, I think, set root in college, where the professors would actually make jokes about homeschoolers. So I already had a bad view of homeschooling just from my own professors in college. And yes, they do that. And we're talking, guys, we're talking like 20 years ago. So I cannot even imagine what it's like now. So sorry if you guys picked that up on my audio. My husband is actually mowing the yard right now. So he just happened to go right past our homeschool room. So anyway, when I really had the idea, like, you know, I think I might want to do this, I really started researching it before I brought it to my husband. I said, okay, if I want to do this, I want to know about it first, and I want to research it. I want to know what I'm looking at before I even make the decision if I want to homeschool, and I don't even want to present it to my husband until I know for sure. So that's what I did. I dove in, and you guys, even 5 years ago, there was just so much information about homeschooling and so many different curriculums, and I remember being in awe and overwhelmed both at the same time, and really there was no middle ground. It was just like, I think we all have that moment where we're like, oh my gosh, there is so much, like, and it can get so very overwhelming when you have never even looked at this stuff before. I saw the hundreds of curriculum companies and the groups and the co-ops, and I kept thinking, this is so overwhelming. I don't know if I'm up for this. Because at the time, my business was just starting to take off. I worked at home. I had a product-based handmade business, and I didn't have a whole lot of extra time. So I needed to know what I was getting myself into. So I quickly did some research, and over a couple of weeks, I figured out what I was looking at, and I made the decision, okay, I think I want to do this, but I'm not sure how. So really the second thing that I did was I made a clear plan. And I think that's really what helped not just my husband, but helped me. I made a clear plan, and I said, okay, I need to be able to balance home, work at home, and homeschool. And I need to be able to do these three things well and still keep my sanity. So if I'm going to get my husband on my team, I need to show him that we can do this together. At the time, my husband was still working full-time in the military. He was in the Marine Corps, and we had nobody near us. So you guys, we were very far and isolated. So the only friend I had was my next door neighbor, and I just adore her. And if she's watching, hi. I loved her. She was my only friend, and we had just come back from living in Japan, and we were in the middle of the country, and all my family was just states away. So I really was by myself. It kind of feels like an island sometimes. So once I sat down and I said, okay, how can I do this? How can I work this out in my schedule? Because before, when the kids were both going to school, my youngest had preschool 3 days a week for about 3 hours. My oldest had public elementary school from about, I don't know, 7 or 8 until 2 o'clock. So because they were in different buildings on opposite sides of the base, I was coming and going 4 times a day. So you can imagine what that was doing to my sanity while I was trying to work at home and get the orders out the door. And, you know, I had my husband coming in and out all the time. He worked 12 to 16 hour days. It was just madness. So I really felt alone. So I worked out a schedule, a tentative schedule of how I thought I could loosely do this. And of course, there was no way that I could really know from that schedule if that's what homeschool was going to be like. So I really just kind of made, you know, just a list of, okay, we can do this, and then I can work, and then I have time for other things. So I made myself kind of this schedule. And then the third thing that I did was I got the evidence of how well homeschoolers do educationally and the statistics. My husband was a newly saved Christian, and you know, he was that baby Christian, that baby on fire Christian, and you know, he was all in. And I really took to him a lot of the things that were being taught in the public school, because one of the other reasons why I wanted to homeschool is my oldest was coming home saying and behaving strangely with some things, and we were really just alarmed as parents and as Christians. We were alarmed. And although I'm not going to get into that, you can just imagine some of the things that public schoolers bring home. So once we really decided, like, we're having some issues with the school, we also had an issue with them constantly sending him home every time he had an allergy. He was allergic to one of the trees around us and around our home. So he had itchy, watery eyes all the time, and they kept sending him home. And at one point actually threatened to make him stay back an entire grade when they kept sending him home during the day. And it was just really frustrating. It was just really frustrating. So our frustration with the public school was already just like up to our eyeballs. So I took that, plus all of the stats on how well homeschoolers do, plus all of the Christian material that there was, to show him, like, we can take out this stuff that they're teaching and we can replace it with better things. And I think that we could do a better job. I really do. And those 3 things together is really what did it. So really researching it and making out some kind of tentative schedule, and then taking the evidence of homeschool and showing how well homeschoolers do. I was able to present all of this to him at one time. I didn't just go up to him and say, hey, what do you think about homeschooling? Because I knew probably the answer I was going to get. He was probably going to be like, what? So I sat him down, and I remember having the conversation with him, and I remember telling him, like, my friend does this, and she works at home, and she thinks I can do this, and I think I can do this, and this is how I think I'm going to do this. And then I showed him the evidence, like, look how well they do. I mean, I have a degree in education. Why can't I do this? Of course I can do this. His initial response was shock and surprise. And, you know, he and I, we think a lot alike. And I think that really helps us, not just in marriage, but in a lot of things, a lot of decisions. But he was totally convinced by the evidence, totally convinced with everything that I gave him. But his initial response was, I don't think we should do this. And I remember looking at him going, but why? And he's like, because it's going to overwhelm you. You already have work. You are up to your eyeballs in work. And I don't want to put one more thing on top of you to make things even more stressful for you than they already are. At this point, I had no employees. We were still running everything out of the home. And it was at the height of my success as a business person. I was really turning over a profit. We were doing very, very well. And he was right. It was really busy. So I really had to pray a lot. So when you get to that point where you want to say yes, but you're scared, or you're not sure, or you're in that position where my husband was in, where it was like, you're not sure what that's going to do to the other person. As a wife, I really suggest that you pray. I really, really do. I prayed for days, and somehow we started getting all of this information, and it was through social media and YouTube and just groups, and we were shown the documentary Indoctrination. And then I think what really drove that last nail into it was Vodi Bachum's Children of Caesar sermon series. There is more than one. That's why I'm saying series. I believe there's 2. There might be 3. But that, I remember that right there was the thing that sealed the deal for us. It was Vodi Bachum. And that, my friends, was the day my husband said, we're doing this. I don't know how we're going to do this. I don't know if we can do this, but we're going to do this. And I said, all right, let's do it. So when we made the decision to do this, to homeschool our kids for the very first time, to pull them out of public school, and you're terrified, what I decided to do, because I was so scared, was I schooled for 6 weeks before the new school year started. So we let our son finish out the school year. And when summer started, I started getting all the material. Everything that I needed to homeschool, I got it. And I put it in the living room, and I started figuring out a space to homeschool, and I started mapping everything out, and we started 6 weeks before the yellow bus was going to come by. And I did that to give myself an out and to say, okay, if this is too much for me, if I can't do this, then we'll just send him to public school and I'll return the curriculum. But I'm going to try this. And we gave it that trial period, and we just kept going. My kids flourished. They were doing so well. And I no longer had to run all over the base 4 or 5 times a day, picking people up and dropping people off and taking people lunch. And I did not have to do that anymore. And I actually got more work done because I stopped leaving the house and I was at home with my kids. So that is the story of how I got my husband to say yes. we finally got on the same page. And really, I think you have to tackle how your husband thinks and not make an emotional decision. I think you need to make an informed, well thought out decision before you present your ideas, because I think it can get messy if you don't. So tell me, were you and your husband or you and your wife on the same page when you presented the idea? Tell me, parents, I want to hear it down below in the comments. So I hope that this kind of gives you some ideas if you are thinking about going this route. If you have any questions, pop them down below. Happy homeschooling, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.